Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the No Laying Up Golf Podcast. My name is Randy, and we are going to kick off the LPGA 2025 season. And to help me do it, I'm joined by Cody McBride and Jordan Perez. We were going to be joined by TC, but he's hurt today. He's down, deactivated. But we have a great show ahead. Let me introduce these two. Cody, good morning, good afternoon. What's going on with you?
It's a great day, Biggie. I'm excited to be talking LPGA golf. You know, we had a busy January. We know our season preview in the past has come out a little bit earlier, but the boys have been busy. I was down in South America, an Argentina trip, then a big week last week at Pebble. So unfortunately, we missed. We didn't have predictions in time for the big Hilton kickoff event. But I think we're doing a pretty good job here. I'm excited for the season to get going. We have some awesome venues, and I'm just pumped. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do at No Laying Up, Biggie.
And also joining us, Jordan Perez. Jordan, what's going on?
Gentlemen, I'm thrilled to be back on your program. Thank you so much for having me. Additionally, yes, I will echo that, Cody. This is one of my favorite things I get to do at NLU. And I think we're parachuting in at the right time, honestly. I mean, this is when things are really getting started.
Exactly. I think we all had Alim Kim winning at least once this year, so we'll give ourselves that prediction.
Randy, I think we're fine there, right? But one thing before we get going too far, just want to give a quick shout out to the fact that Alim Kim and her new 2025 Pro V1 golf ball, they're an undefeated duo so far this season. She moved to that new model after doing testing in Korea over the offseason. Seems to be a pretty solid fit so far. The only player to shoot all 4 rounds in the 60s. She made a field best 24 birdies, and she led in total driving and par 5 scoring. It's incredible stuff for this new golf ball. And she wasn't the only player to move to the new golf ball last week. Megan Kang and Alexa Pano both put the 25 Pro V1 into play, while Parjari, Anna Narukarn, Patty Tavatanikit, and Amy Yang all teed up the 25 Pro V1 X for the first time. The new 25 Pro V1 and Pro V1X gives golfers more of what they've been asking for, which is more speed off the tee, more control with the irons, and more spin into the wedges. All of that, plus Titleist's unmatched quality and ball-to-ball consistency, is going to give you more chances to shoot lower scores. The 2025 Pro V1 and Pro V1X golf balls are available now, so head to Titleist.com to find out which model is right for your game. Thank you for getting me through that, Biggie.
Exceptional ad read there, Cody. I can't wait to know, these names, man. The names they keep you on your toes.
And good job. People listening to this aren't going to know the difference, but clearly people that watch this on the YouTube channel, we also have a No Laying Up podcast YouTube channel. You can watch all this. They're going to see a couple jump cuts in there. Okay. I had a couple, false start, little pump fake here trying to get through some of the names, but of course, thank you to Titleist.
Absolutely. I was joking about Alim Kim, but congrats to her. She won the season opening Tournament of Champions down in Orlando. Her second win in just a few months. She won last November out in Hawaii. Her other LPGA win was the 2020 U.S. Women's Open. So perhaps a bit of a breakout coming for Alim Kim. We'll see if she makes any of our predictions. We have a good show ahead. I want to, in kind of block 1, I want to get into a calendar discussion. Block 2, I want to get into some players. We're going to buy, sell. We're going to go through the current top 10, who we think is going to move in, move out, some other stuff, rookies to watch. And then block 3 will be our official season-long predictions. Before we dive in, though, guys, Cody, I'll start with you. Any updates if folks are asking, hey, what's the plan for women's golf content this year? Let's talk about, what are going to be some of our bigger weeks. And then Jordan, I want to bring you in because I think one of the things we are hoping to do this year is do some deep dives and some real player spotlights as Solly and KVV and the boys have been doing with the men's game. So Cody, I know we always look forward to AIG Women's Open Week, but it's fun. You got a couple majors this year in your backyard.
I do. So we got we got a lot of stuff going on, Biggie. I think this is going to be our kind of second or third year really diving in and investing into the LPGA schedule. And I think this is the year that we're kind of going to see a lot of the fruits of our efforts, our labor paying off for us. So specifically for us, we're going to have live shows focused around all the majors that count. No offense to Evian, but in order for Evian to actually count, LC or Nelly or
Somebody
Lydia,
we deem worthy.
Rose,
Yes.
somebody needs to win this. No offense to all the great champions out there, but that's where Evian currently sits. I'm going to make my way down. I'll be at Chevron again. I was there a couple days early. Last year, I plan on doing the exact same thing this year. Hopefully, get some good player insight, maybe pick up a couple interviews, but we will also be live that week. So, normal live show schedules, just like we did last year for the best women in the game of golf. So, we're going to run basically Friday live shows and then as well as the normal Sunday shows. But a couple of these events we might actually move to Saturday instead of Friday, just because we want to try some things out. We're trying to figure out if people enjoy having like a 36-hole check-in, or if people more want, hey, I haven't really had the chance to tune in so far to the event this week. Tell me what I need to know to set me up to watch and enjoy this final round. So we're going to try a couple things out this year, but we're going to be here providing the best coverage that we possibly can at the best events that we can on the LPGA calendar. We mentioned Frisco. We'll have content around Frisco. We haven't really mentioned it yet, but Aaron Hill's, Deej's backyard. We're going to be there that week. So we don't know how long yet, but we definitely will have a presence on site. And then, of course, Randy, I don't know how many different layers of rain gear, maybe wind protection. I don't know, but we're going to Wales. I haven't been to Wales yet. I know you haven't been to Wales, and I'm excited to go. We're going to check it out, do our normal thing there at the AIG Women's Open that we're very, very excited about. And it's going to be an awesome year. No Solheim Cup, but we got the international crown back on the calendar in Korea. Who knows what you'll see from us in the fall, but I'm excited because it's a really good year, some good venues that we haven't seen yet. And we're going to talk about Field Ranch, but we got a lot on the agenda.
We do. Well said. And Jordan, I mentioned we are efforting, I would say at least 3, hopefully 4, what we'll call deep dives, focusing on women's golf. We were actually just meeting earlier this week. But you're going to play a big role in these. And I can tease, I think the first one is going to be a look into the history of the U.S. Women's Open. But tell me, what else is potentially on the plate this year, and how excited are you for this assignment?
Big, I'm amped. I'm so glad I get to sprinkle these in through all the fun that you guys are having this year. No, deep dives are awesome. And when we did our AIG Women's Open one, that was some of the most fun I had last year. So stoked to run it back, this time a little bit bigger. So as you were saying, US Women's Open deep dive will kind of headline it. Do we want to give all of them away? Like, do we
No,
want to
you
keep
don't
them
have to give all of
surprise?
them away, but
Okay.
maybe what's one that's on your radar that you're looking forward to?
I am really looking forward to the Laura Davies one. I think that
Mm,
one is gonna be pretty sick.
yeah,
I don't know
I
if we've
think
told you this before, but Randy and I, we did a full interview with Laura Davies one time and
Yeah,
didn't even publish it. The lost tapes.
never saw the
I
light
do
of day. It
remember
had
that.
nothing to do with Laura, just
No.
kind of our problem. Yeah, Jordan, we're super looking forward to this. I think women's golf is obviously a very ripe area to get into the characters, stories, events that built and paved the way to where the women's game is now. So, with that said, let's dive into a little bit of calendar discussion. I mean, Cody, you kind of highlighted the majors for us. I just want to double down and reaffirm how important major venues are. I think it's the one thing in talking to players, especially caddies, when these majors get to big venues and important venues, it's almost impossible to understate, I think, how important that is for the women's game. And so if I could twitch my nose and change anything, it might be looking at the 2 LPGA majors, the Chevron and the Evian, that every year at the same course. And quite frankly, I don't think rise to the level of what we would expect a major championship venue to be across golf. That's, no direct shade at the club at Carlton Woods and the Woodlands, but it's not. So, in my opinion, I think the other 3 LPGA majors, the U.S. Women's Open, the PGA Championship, and the Women's British Open, that's kind of where the most important weeks reside. And as you said, we get to go back to Erin Hills. It's the first time we'll have seen a championship there since Brian Harmon and the men played it several years ago. Fields Ranch, I'm curious. Let's talk about Fields Ranch, because this is going to be the first time we've seen the men or the women compete at Fields Ranch, the East Course there in Frisco. But it's a very important venue because we're going to see a lot of it in the coming years.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we've had so they have hosted one major championship so far. That was the year that they opened, and it was the senior men's
Okay, no disrespect to the olds.
PGA
that's
championship. So it's interesting. You know, I think it's going to set up a lot better for the women than it will when the men's PGA championship rolls in there. But we're going to see a lot of it. I think it's very interesting, the juxtaposition that we went from last year at Sahali and just the sheer look of everything, the differences to being in North Texas in June. It's going to be light and day. Tough for Amy Yang to defend at a place that has zero similarities at all. But I'm excited. You know, we're going to, like you said, we're going to end up seeing this location a lot. We got this year is, of course, the women's KPMG PGA Championship in 2027. It's the first time that the men have the crack there at the PGA Championship. The olds are back in 2029, and then the women are right back there in 2031. So we're going to see this a lot. And I think it's, you know, I like it when you have staples and kind of this rotating, I don't know, venues, a nice rota that makes sense. I don't know really where the PGA of America is at with this rota or how it's all going to really fill in. I don't think they really have a clear or defined path, kind of like the USGA does on the women's side. But I don't know. I think it's going to be an extremely firm and fast, hot golf course. It's a ball strikers. You know, you don't have to hit the ball crazy far because everything's going to run out and kind of funnel into the same spot. But you have to be extremely accurate with your irons coming in because you have very, very firm greens that are going to run lightning fast with a lot of pitch in them. So I'm just excited for it. I don't know. It's one of those things where in talking and trying to get our stuff set up, I just really wanted to make sure that we found a spot with a lot of air conditioning because it's going to be hot. It's going to be so hot that week. So we'll see.
Yeah, juxtapose that with Erin Hills for the U.S. Women's Open, and I'm hoping we see a bit of the wind and conditions play a factor there because that's notoriously what was absent when the men went there. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what year that was. 2017, Anyway, so that could be again an interesting venue for the women. A course that we're pretty familiar with. You know, it can be a big ballpark. Feels like a big ballpark. Is a great piece of land up there in Wisconsin. So very much looking forward to that. And then Royal Porthcawl in Wales, as you mentioned, they've hosted some senior open championships. They've hosted some British amateur championships, but this will be the first time the women have been there. The men, the regular British Open, of course, has not been there. So kind of a fun, unique venue in the sense that it's going to be a lot more eyes on a place that I think a lot of people aren't that familiar with. And famously, you know, we were asking our friends Catherine Downs and Ian Carter and the gang, you know, what can we expect? And they all said one of I think the most recent senior open that was there, they were like, it was the worst weather we've ever been a part of. So if we get that kind of weather, oh boy, I'm not sure what to make of that. We'll see who's a mutter.
That was 2017 at Erin Hills when Brooks won, just to save you there. And then you're right on Porthcawl. I think
I was saying Brian Harmon. Did Brian Harmon finish runner up? Yeah, it was Brooks that won.
Yeah, correct. So I think the Women's Open conditions are going to be definitely in play here, but I kind of like the fact that we're back at the end of June or the end of July, that first week of August, because I know between the Olympics last year and then scheduling at Walton Heath the year before, and both of them Solheim Cup years, it kind of messed up the overall schedule. But I'm happy where it's at now because number one, I don't have to leave the first week that my kids are back in school again, and number two, I think it's kind of a perfect cap to an incredible 2.5 months that the LPGA Tour has there. It's almost like major championship, regular event, major championship, week off, regular event, major championship. They just kind of all stack up there, one after the other. So it's going to be a great run there.
Yeah, it feels kind of like a sprint there in the middle of the schedule. Jordan, let me bring you in. What can you tell us about some of the big amateur events this year? When are they? Anything to note? Well, you tell us. What are the big amateur events that we need to pay attention to?
It's going to be a pretty interesting season of women's amateur golf for sure. So, headlining that is Anwa, April 2nd to the 5th, just before Masters Week, again at Champions Retreat and Augusta National for the final round. We've got some big dogs headlining this one. Today, actually, the field was finalized. All the invitations were sent out and accepted. So we've got Lottie Woad coming back to defend. Number 2 in the world, Jasmine Koo, who's been having an incredible freshman year at USC. Rianne Maliksi, who won the US Junior Girls and the US Women's Am last summer. Maria Marine, who's having an incredible season at Arkansas. Mega Gane is coming back. She's had such a great comeback this past year. It was a great past fall for Anna Davis as well. So just a lot of big names headlining this field. And I'm very curious to see who comes out on top. I still think Lottie looks pretty strong, but feels like we've got a lot more parity than we have in previous years. So super stoked for that.
No, didn't even mention Hannah Darling. Didn't even give a shout out to Rachel. It's
I
crazy.
was gonna
Rachel,
say, I'm
Rachel,
excited that Rachel Heck got an
She's running
invitation.
back. Yeah. Yeah, she is running it back. Sorry, girls. Hannah Darling, who was definitely in contention last year, and Rachel Heck accepted an invite this year. So will be great to see all of them in Anwa this year.
NCAA championships are usual date, kind of that mid-May. Once again at Omni La Costa. Jordan, who's the best collegiate golf team right now?
Oh, I'm gonna shock you all so much with this one. Ugh, the Stanford Cardinal once
I
again.
saw Coach
Uh,
last week all over Pebble. Out
mm,
there cheering out Condi. It's going to be a heck of a season for them. Randy, let me ask you this: who won the team championship last year?
The team championship was won by that was Stanford, right?
Very good, right?
Yeah.
When sitting here doing research for this, I was like, "Oh man, Stanford's so good again." But they had lost Rose. Rachel's last season, like, just didn't really work out for them. I was like, "Oh my goodness, they won! How did we miss it? They won again. Who would have thought?"
No, I know, powerhouse. And then Jordan, where's the U.S. Women's Am this year?
the U.S. Women's Am is at Bandon. So
Oh,
Bandon
sick.
Dunes. That'll be very interesting. I'm curious to see that. That's actually the week following the AIG Women's Open. So like you guys were saying with the scheduling, so much better this year. Very
Mhm.
excited for that.
Awesome. Cody, you had mentioned this is an international crown year. The big thing to note with the international crown, I really like this move. Kudos to the LPGA. For the first time, there's going to be a world team. So,
Mhm.
alongside the 7 qualifying countries, of course, this is 4 women per team. There's going to be a world team, which is going to include the top ranked player from each of the following 4 regions, not from a country already qualified. And those regions are the Americas, North and South, Europe, Asia, and Africa/Oceania. So, we're talking about, hey, Lydia Co can now potentially compete. Brooke Henderson can now compete. I think this is a fabulous move by the LPGA.
Yeah, I agree there, Big A. I absolutely love this. Talk about trying to grow the event and bring the best players that you possibly can. If you look at the standings, I think this is where we've always focused on those top 8 teams, but now it's the top 7 teams that need to be there. If you look, the current standings right now, you have USA number 1, Japan is sitting in that second place spot, Korea is third, Thailand is fourth, Australia is fifth, Sweden is sixth and only going to gain ground. China is 7th, and the 8th spot is Germany. England is not there until number 9, and France is at bringing it in at that 10th spot. So if you go right now, the world team would be made up of Lydia Ko, Charlie Hall, Brooke Henderson, and Paiyun Chen from Chinese Taipei. Truly a rock star team. So I
Yeah.
love the fact that you have the world team rounding this out. It brings definitely the two biggest names that we always talk about, Lydia and Brooke, into an event like this. In Korea, that is absolutely mad. Not only that, it's going to be the week after the BMW Ladies International in Korea. Like, it's going to be a really good finishing stretch to that back end Asian swing, because the front end Asian swing, they can just get rid of that thing. We can figure that out later, but I'm pumped for it.
Yeah. Well said. On the not so great side, it was announced that the match play event, which will be back at Shadow Creek, they're doing away with the hybrid stroke play into match play format. This year, it's just going to be one big single elimination bracket. I kind of like the stroke play into match play. And then the big news recently was the Serie Pak Fur Hills Championship at Palos Verdes has been canceled. A lot of issues with a Korean underwriter. I want to give credit to Beth Ann Nichols. She has written a piece in Golf Week a couple weeks ago about just what's kind of going on there. Cody or Jordan, anything to add?
I was not aware of the footprint the meteorites in South Korea had. That was pretty shocking to me.
Yeah.
It crushes when we were in Korea a couple of years ago, I think there was 4 different golf channels that were playing on TV at all times. The biggest draw for the biggest draw for sports total in Korea is the KLPGA. The second biggest draw is the LPGA. Women's golf absolutely leads the way there. Yeah, they're having some underwriter issues. So I was probably part of this mess a little bit when the announcement first came out. I jumped all over Fur Hills and I was like, well, what is even Fur Hills? Because then I went and looked at the company website and stuff. They only have like 3
It's
employees
weird.
listed.
Yeah.
It's a VC firm from California that they're doing the right thing, that, they kind of straddle the line between US and Korean investments. And they're just there to support kind of the women's game. And it's not really a them thing. It's the underwriter, which I'm pretty sure this was JTBC, correct?
Yeah,
Mhm.
although as Beth Ann notes, the LPGA will not officially comment, but
Okay. So for
yes.
people who are confused, JTBC, it's a South Korean television company. And basically the reason why they're the underwriter is because they hold the media rights, or longtime media rights holder for the LPGA tour, to play tournaments in Korea. And we talked about the revenue and everything else that comes along with women's golf in Korea. It's staggering. Now, that name, if it sounds familiar, JTBC, it's because it's been it's been a title sponsor of other LPGA events in the past. It's been a co-sponsor of other LPGA events in the past. We started really in Arizona, and then they kind of moved over to a lot of the California events. When this event, had such a good little run here. I know it's changed names a couple times, but incredible champions. I think it's amazing that Serie Pak threw her name in the hat as the global ambassador of this game and said, no, I want my name and my legacy tied to this. It's just kind of a shame that we're at where we're at. Now, it also stinks that we probably knew that this was coming for a long time, and we didn't need to publish the 2025 calendar with this event on it when we knew that there was already issues. And the reason why I say that is because this isn't just a 2025 thing. They still haven't paid their bill for 2024.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more, I think, that's going to come out from this. But I do appreciate Seiri taking it to the social. She posted on Instagram, everybody, to just kind of to hold fast, be patient. This is not a Fur Hills thing. This is not a venue thing. It's just the business, the back end business, really, of professional golf. They're trying to get figured out here because everybody wants the same thing to happen.
Yeah. Couple new events this year. The Black Desert Championship is going to be the very beginning of May out in Ivins, Utah at the Black Desert Resort. Jordan, no offense. I'm guessing you don't know much about that. I don't know much about that. Cody, do you know a thing about the Black Desert Resort?
Well, yeah, Matt McCarty won there last year on the PGA Tour. So it's a new PGA Tour event last year. It's got really crazy views in southern Utah with lava rock and the red bluffs of, if you think Moab and stuff like that. It's beautiful, but I know it's a very difficult golf course to get people around. Not only because of the way that it's routed, but also because this lava rock is like right at dog legs and, right off the rough and everything. I think they said last week we had the PGA Tour rules officials on that they give out about an average of 150 rulings per event normally on the PGA Tour. But that event last year had over 360 rulings that were handed out just because of so many balls lost off of the fairway and trying to figure out where to go. So it's going to be a slow going there, but it's another look at a venue that is new and wants to support women's golf. I'm all for it.
Yeah. The other new event being the Riviera Maya Open down at Mayakoba. That's the end of May, towards the end of May 22nd to 25th. Nice to have an event, I think, in Mexico. Gabby Lopez was very instrumental in getting this event together. And as was Lorena Ochoa, who, we've talked about on this podcast from time to time. The more that she can be involved, not only in women's golf, which she is in Mexico, but the more she can be involved with the LPGA and hopefully with this tournament, I think that's ultimately a very good thing. The season will wrap up at the end of November, the 20th through 23rd, again in Naples, Florida, Tiburon Golf Club. Guys, anything else? Jordan, anything to add to the schedule? Cody, anything that is pertinent?
Nope.
Yeah, nothing on my end. I think I know
it's a long season.
It is a long
season.
It very much is. I would say that the only thing, trying to be fair and equal, the best that I can here. A phenomenal LPGA season. It stretches out maybe a little bit too long with a weird break in once we get the season going here. We need to figure out what we're going to do with these dual Asian swings. And I honestly think it's one of those things, again, I'm going to pivot back to this. I'm asking politely because I think it is what's best for golf, women's professional golf as a whole, for the LET and the LPGA to work better together and remove this first Asian swing and just go to the locations that the LET is going to at the beginning of their calendar. All right. Because that would bring Australia into the mix. That's 3 events in Australia to get their season started. You can add one of the Asian events if you want to on the back end of that. But there's something that needs to be done here while the LPGA is underpinning those events as it is. Might as well try to grow them and give it a little bit better look here.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think having one Asia swing, Asia, Australia, I mean, not only is it easier to market, it's easier for fans to kind of wrap their mind around the schedule and how the pieces fit. Yeah, I wish they would kind of carve out this Fur Hills Championship going away this year. It really takes a chunk out of what would be a West Coast swing. I just looked to the men's game. The West Coast swing is such a important, popular part of the calendar. I wish the women could kind of build on that same success early in the year when it's cold in a lot of North America. So the calendar is, though, what it is. We'll see if the new commissioner has much say or what can be done to maybe make it more streamlined.
The only other thing that I'd call out is that once we moved out of the closing ceremony when Hannah Green clipped Maya Stark of the JM Eagle LA Championship that's normally at Wilshire, they started a renovation of it. So we're not going to have Wilshire on the calendar this year. This year, that LA Championship is played at El Cabrero Country Club. I know nothing about it, but then again, I didn't do much research on it. So it is something I just want to say we're monitoring. Okay.
Yes. Well, let's move into some player discussion. The first game, let's just play kind of a buy, hold, sell game. And I want to take a look at the current top 10. Jordan, I'm going to have you go first, but just so folks know, as of recording, the top 10, your number 1 is Nelly Korda, followed by Lydia Co, Ronning Yin, Gino Titicum, Lilia Vu, Hannah Green, Heyron Rue, Ayaka Furuwe, Charlie Hall, and Seline Boutier. Jordan, Nelly Korda 2025. Are you buying, holding, selling Nelly Korda stock this season? And why?
Guys, in the name of transparency, to start off 2024, I did not buy Nelly Korda, and that was really silly.
It's
So
big of you to admit. We do
yeah,
appreciate you taking accountability.
yeah, I'm always here too. I'm always here too.
So I feel like TC should be on this podcast taking some responsibility as well.
Well, we're here now, and I'm here to take accountability for myself. He can take accountability separately. So, with that being said, it would be really foolish for me not to buy. Gosh, what a statistically dominant year and dominant in every way, and I just don't see that changing. She's just on such an incredible run, just seems so healthy, and yeah, I don't know. It feels like she just blossomed into a completely new player in certain ways, and I'm excited to see what she can do in 2025. It's a lot of pressure for sure, but she seems so much more capable of it now than she had in years past of managing it and creating some consistency. So buy all the way.
Cody, are you worried Jordan is buying into the top of the market? Can Nelly, is it possible to follow up what she did in 2024?
I think it very much is possible, all right? Because I think if she looks back on 2024 and there's definitely highs, there is also a lot of lows, and she's talked pretty openly about that. So a phenomenal run of a lot of events in a row that she picked up wins on, but she was disappointed. She finished the year with only one major championship, and at the rate that she was going and how she was performing, it definitely was a letdown for her. So I expect more from Nelly this year. I am buying, of course. The train continues. I'm happy to have JP on board. If only we could get TC, somewhere. He's got to have a little bit more respect for her. And I know last year, as the season went on, he definitely developed that. He just hasn't vocalized it that much. So I was concerned when she got hurt in the fall. I didn't know how she was going to play when she came back. And then, of course, she's had a long break in the offseason and came out at Hilton. And guess what, guys? She took second place.
Yep.
I mean, she finished at 18 under. She was only two strokes back from Alim Kim after, shooting a final round 65. Like, that was just funny, silly golf for Nelly. Like, who knows what the rest of the season is going to look like, especially after the great feelings that she has going back home this week, theoretically at a course that she's defending. I understand it's no longer the Drive On. Now it's the Founders. So Rose is defending it, but I mean, Nelly's got to feel as great as anybody else right now.
It's so great to be at a point in professional women's golf where we can just see a name and just feel accustomed to seeing it at the top of a leaderboard, being like, yeah, that makes sense. Why wouldn't Nelly Korda be there?
Exactly. What about you, Big?
I wrote holding. I'm holding Nelly. I think when we look back on her 2025, I don't think she's going to win 7 times. I do think she's going to win a major. I think she'll win multiple times. I just think when all is said and done, it might not live up to the highs of 2024, but that's really, her being a victim of like a very historical run and not necessarily indicative of like, I don't think she's still the best player in the world or anything. So I put a hold on Nelly.
And you're looking at that strictly from an overall wins, I'm guessing. That's where you came to that from.
Wins, yeah. I mean, honestly, I think what could tilt the scales for her is certainly 2 major championships, but if she were to pick off a US Women's Open or an AIG Women's Open, like those are, in my opinion, the 2 crown jewels and majors that she has not won yet. So I think that could, for me, eclipse, winning the Chevron. Let's say she wins 5 times with the US Women's Open. Like, I think that could realistically be better than the 2024 season.
We'll say this. I think she's going to look at her calendar a little bit differently than she did last year. She had stretches where she was on the road a lot and playing a lot of events, and I think she felt like she needed to or had to play in some of those. You're not going to see those crazy long stretches of Nelly Korda playing back-to-back weeks this year. And I think she's doing that because she realized that in order for her to show up at the biggest weeks that they have on the LPGA season, she needed to respect it and figure out her time a lot better. So instead of peaking really when she peaked in the spring, hopefully we're shifting that to late May, June, July time frame. So that's why I say it, because I think honestly she's going to win a major. I think she's going to contend in a couple others. And like this year at the Founders, I know this is always how we kind of say, the Founders is their Players Championship. If Nelly isn't in contention this week, I think it's a pretty big disappointment.
Yeah, I agree. There's an outside chance with a monster year she could qualify for the Hall of Fame, which would be something to monitor.
We don't need that jinx. Don't need
No.
that one.
Well,
It'll
speaking of
come.
Hall of Fame, let's go to Lydia Co. Number 2. Cody, I'll throw this one to you. We buying, selling, or holding Lydia Co. stock?
Yeah, I'm buying it. I mean, she doesn't have anything to lose.
And let me ask you, what does buying mean? Like, where can she go after a gold medal, a win at St. Andrews? It feels like, man, we may have reached that late career pinnacle. That's the only thing that makes me skeptical.
Well, I know she wants the career Grand Slam, and that's something that she's had circled. She's been very vocal about it. There's major championships that she hasn't really contended in that she definitely is chomping on the bit to get to. And all of this is now bonus for not only us being fans, but I think for her too. She's talked about the ebbs and flows of this professional life, and she's finally in a spot where not only is she happy personally, but also professionally. And what a phenomenal year that you mentioned last year. But I always thought that Lydia, she might. I think we actually have to call her Dame now too, by the way, because she was
Yeah.
knighted or something like that in New
Yes.
Zealand.
Up. Yep.
Dame Lydia loves her off seasons and usually is kind of a slow starter outside of drive on last year. She should have won that event. Nelly ended up beating her in the playoff. But even her performance last week at Hilton comes out top 10, finishes in solo 6, 13 under. I mean, has her third round 65. It was like, wait a second, what are we doing here? How are a lot of these people? I hope it signs for form what we're going to see the rest of the year. So that's why buying it up, because I think this is just all bonuses, right? Our compound interest is finally starting to turn over, and that's Lydia.
So just to note, to complete the career Grand Slam, she would need the KPMG Women's PGA and the U.S. Women's Open. So a couple of big ones there. Jordan, what say you about Lydia?
I want to say buy as well. Yes, I totally understand the fear of thinking like, okay, she might be in cruise control. She's reached that late career pinnacle and could be chilling after the end of the year that she had last year. But she still seems hungry enough, and she, in all of her candor, as usual, seems like she's always searching for something within herself to varying lengths. And I think the career Grand Slam is no different. So I would be interested to see what she could do at Erin Hills or at the Women's PGA. That would be really fascinating. And similar to Nelly, I think she knows how to pace herself, knows how to schedule events, knows when she should test herself. And I don't know, that kind of experience and that kind of late career wisdom has only been paying off for her in the past few years on and off, give or take. So I'm definitely buying Lydia for sure.
All right, I'm gonna officially stick my neck out here, and I hate doing this, but I'm gonna sell
do it.
Lydia stock. I
Bad
think
guy.
it's not gonna get
Bad
better than
guy.
last year. I think she could have a very good season, win once or twice, but it's just not gonna live up to 2024. So I'm sorry to be the party pooper. I am selling Lydia Co stock, which brings me to Ronning Yin, number 3 in the world. One of the 21, she might be 22 now, the young 20 somethings that seem on the cusp of really announcing themselves week to week, year to year on the LPGA tour. Of course, she has won a major. Supreme ball striker. The putter is just kind of, it's mediocre. If that gets going, I'm buying. I'm not. I have no insight into her putting, so for that reason, I'm holding Ronning Yin. I could see her, winning a few times, kind of keeping in this 3 to 5 in the world rankings. No strong take on Ronning Yin this year. Cody, do you feel differently?
No, I'm kind of there with you. I hope she gets it figured out. That's, I think people forget that she ended up tied for second at the Women's Open last year. Phenomenal performance, and really, she was the one person on the leaderboard that's like, she didn't really make any putts. Like, she was just she was just kind of there. Never had that one round that she needed to send it over. I don't know. I think she gets lumped in with her best friend Gino a lot, and they play such different games. And we're gonna get to Gino next, and how much I feel about her. For some reason, I just haven't gotten there yet with Ronnie, and it is the putting. So I don't know. We got to see something first. I hope
Yeah.
she proves us wrong, though, Big. But I'm right there with you.
Hate to make it an echo chamber, but I'm also holding. I just yeah, I don't want to gloss over the tie for second at the Women's Open, but there's nothing there that is making me as passionate as Gino. And maybe that's recency bias, guys. I think there's a little bit of that at play, but I'm holding.
Okay, well, let's go to number 4, her good friend. They won the Dow Team Championship last year, and that's Gino Titicum. Let me just say this. I'm mega buying.
For sure.
This goes back to the end
For
of last
sure.
year. Like,
Mhm.
I couldn't buy enough of this stock coming into this year. She's 21. She won the Tour Championship back in November. She was the shots gained total leader last year at plus 2.4. I just think I think she is truly going to have a monster season. I'm curious if any of you disagree or if anybody wants to stick their neck out with a sell on Gino.
No,
No,
finally
no.
healthy. I mean, she barely met the minimum rounds last year to get into that bracket just because she didn't play until Chevron. I mean, she had such a long rehab process getting her wrist back to where it needs to be. We mentioned that her and Ronnie they partnered together, and then Gino ended up, they both ended up getting additional victories on the year. And you're right by saying this. You're basing your Gino feelings on how the season ended. So she won tour championship, right? She finished second at the Maybank Malaysia event. Do you know who won Maybank? Ronnie. So
Oh,
we're
that's right. I was thinking, I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, who won
Mhm.
that?
we're sitting here kind of literally giving the ultimate recency bias to Gino just because of everything that comes with it. She's so good. She's so consistent. And I know that there's a lot of people been saying this for a very long time, but she is I think the year that Nelly had last year, Gino is finally going to get to that.
I
Multiple
agree.
victories, big
Ooh.
victories, contending in more major championships, being right there when the biggest moments happen. That's the type of pedigree that Gino is.
I agree, and we always talk about how high the floor is with Nelly's game. Honestly, I think Gino might have the highest floor, and I say that. You look at her top 10 percentage, it is incredible. I mean, 2023, 13 top 10s and 21 starts, followed it up last year with 13 more top 10s and just 18 starts. So she's top 10 in 26 of 41 starts over the last 2 seasons. And that's as a 19 and 20-year-old. In a weird way, she's almost like post hype. Like we've almost overlooked the jump that I think she's gonna make. And I hope it's this year because her and Nelly, I mean, if they kind of lift and separate from the rest of women's golf, that's going to be a ton of fun. Number 5 in the world rankings right now is Lilia Vu. Cody? Let me throw this one to you. This is, I think, probably the most interesting name here in the top 10.
Yeah, it's very weird that we're here talking about it and considering, maybe 2024 a letdown year for her. She still got a victory. She did a heck of a job defending her AIG Women's Open, finishing in that tie for second. Probably should have won, honestly. Should have won that event. And
Clinching
I
moment at the Solheim, that wedge
yeah,
into 18.
for sure. And
Mhm.
then coming out of that just didn't really, do much of anything. I mean, her lowest finish out of that was the Annika. She barely finished, tied for 34th. Everything else was, she made cuts across the Asian swing, but she didn't really do anything. And then at the Tour Championship, kind of laid an egg and finished tied for 40th. For being a champion last year, her respect of the calendar and her calendar and just completely skipping Hilton last year when she's like, the second biggest name in the US for golf, and you probably need that draw, is definitely a questionable thing, but I'm going to say I'm selling Lilia Vu. I don't know what it is. I used to be so in, and now I'm just kind of like, well, I don't really know what you're made of anymore.
Well, injuries have played a part. Jordan, I'm curious to get your opinion before I opine. What are you doing with Lilia?
Last year, I bought all the way. I really was just so attached to the 2023 hype. And, it feels so strange to say that someone who had two runner ups at a major had a disappointing year. But I mean, I don't know. I also don't feel it in the week to week. I mean, Lily has kind of vanished, and that's somewhat concerning. And I know injuries have played a role as well, but where is it? I think this is going to be one of those years where it comes into focus a lot for Lilia, and we'll really learn what she's made of because achieving that greatness is one thing, but sustaining it is something else entirely. I wrote sell for Lilia, and it feels so harsh, but I'll stay there too.
Great minds. I have a sell rating as well. I really enjoy Lilia. I still think about that interview we got to do with her, Cody. Like I love what she's about. My big worry is injuries, and I just feel like we're going to look back and 2023 is going to be the career year and could be the pinnacle. I'm just a little nervous about her ability week to week to compete. I would love to be wrong about this, but I am selling Lilia. Which brings us to number 6, Hannah Green. I'll start here. I'm holding on Hannah Green. All right, 28 years old. Last year was a big jump for her in terms of winning 3 times. She, of course, had won a major several years ago, early in her career. I was looking through her stats. She's got a bit of a kind of odd year, even year thing going, with odd years being a bit down. So that gives me some pause. I don't know. She had stated a couple years ago her goal was to be a top 10 golfer. She has accomplished that goal. I'm curious where she goes from here. For that reason, I'm putting a hold on her. I'm not sure how much upside there is from here for her.
Jordan.
How much do I have to buy? I'm buying Hannah Green. Let's
Nice.
I
go.
love
Let's
it. I
go.
love it.
Let's go.
Finally. Yes.
Yes.
Give us the reason.
I don't know. The BMWs was just such an incredible performance, and I just feel so convinced. She's just done some really historical stuff. I mean, she's, I believe, the first Australian to win 3 times in a season since Kari Webb. Like, that's no small feat. And that putter change earlier the year last year kind of did it for her, and it was everything. I think I'm feeling good about another major this year for Hannah Green. And maybe that's sticking my neck out just a teensy bit, but I feel
We
good about
love
it. I
that.
truly
We
do.
love
I
that.
truly do.
It's a lot. Randy, I'm going to cozy up right next to you, and I'm holding on Hannah, okay? Awesome year last year. Nobody's going to take those 3 wins away. But it's a lot of boom and bust here. And I don't think she's going to be the top Aussie this year. I think there's a familiar name that's kind of chomping at the bit, trying to take that title back. But you know how they get fired up? It's an international crown year. You know that Team Aussie is going to be rocking in Korea, and that motivates the shit out of them. So who knows? I hope I'm proven wrong. That's why I'm not selling here. Just holding. I think there's a lot of gas still left in that tank. But we're, even though there's 5 major championships, you run out of them quick that you can give out. So good on you, JP. But I'm right there with Bick.
Guys, all I gotta say is don't be a fan later when Hannah Green plucks one off this summer. That's all I gotta say.
I love it. I love it, JP. And I want you to throw it in our faces. We'll roll this audio clip. Number 7 is Heyron Rue. Cody, let me start with you here.
Holding. I think there's tremendous upside here. Continues to get better. We've seen that. She's proven that. Awesome win last year. I remember in Boston, just after a really long stretch of golf, her showing up at a new course, kind of a big boy ballpark, TPC Boston, where there's a lot of unknowns there. And then just how she plotted her way through the Asian swing, getting back-to-back top 5s, and then finishing the year strong. I'm holding there because I don't know really where the floor is at. She's clearly a top 10 player in the world, but we got to start winning a little bit more. And that's very hard when you're playing on a tour with Nelly Korda. I understand, but that's kind of where I'm at.
JP?
I gotta echo that too with a hold. There were some impressive parts of the calendar that she played really well with some consistency in, and it's not like she's favoring one time of the year, one side of the world more than the other, and that feels really promising to me. But I feel like she's at a pretty steady place at 7, so I'm holding.
Guys, I'm gonna buy. I think there's another. I think there's another
Yeah.
level. Top 10s out the wazoo. Led the tour, strokes gained, tee to green, ton of birdies. I think led the tour in birdies. I feel like Cody, you're right. She's had some near misses, a little bit of scar tissue, some close calls, but she has converted a few wins, and I feel like this could be a year, certainly multiple wins, and I think she climbs in the top 10 by the end of the year. So brings us number 8, Ayaka Furuwe, 24 years old, consistently one of the best putters on tour, won the Evian last year. Statistically, her big jump was in her approach play. I feel like at 24, she's somebody that I feel like players, commentators, they're always talking her up. So I'm gonna buy the trend that that Ayaka is still ascending. Jordan, what say you?
Bye. And I know, Evian really all the time doesn't feel like the most convincing sell for a major championship win, but that was a BDE win for Ayaka, and yeah, statistically one of the best putters on tour. Just I'm so excited to continue seeing what she's made out of. Bye.
I'm selling.
Wow, I love it.
Yep. I understand all the upside. I see the statistics. I recognize and appreciate her putting. It's just kind of like boom or bust. I don't necessarily know if on the competitive side of it, I appreciate and love the fact that she bounces back and forth between JLPGA and the LPGA tour. But I also look at the sheer amount of events that she plays in a year, and I'm like, wow, maybe she could balance that out a little bit and focus her calendar somewhere to be able to show up and play in these big events when she is everybody wants to play most. I mean, she had a top 10 at the US Women's Open. I got that. I think she finished, 6th or T6 or something like that. But outside of that, you got the Evian. And it's just one of those things. You gotta show me. You gotta show up. Let's see it.
That's fair. That's fair. Number 9, let me throw it right back to you, Cody. Charlie Hall.
I'm holding. I had a lot of stock invested in this last year. I don't know where we're at.
Not quite ready to sell. We're
not.
hoping for a bounce.
I can't really sell. I mean, I got a ton invested in it. Now, I will make one bold prediction. I'm pretty sure Charlie's going to win the Women's Open at Porthcawl. But outside of that, I don't really know what else we're gonna see. But she got a new simulator and cold plunge and sauna at the house. She's in love again. Who knows? I don't think anybody really knows what Charlie ever shows up.
No, I don't. Jordan, to you, what do you think?
Does winning the Women's Open not feel ascendant to you, Cody? That's
That's a good point.
incredible. I don't know. I'm all in on her breaking the streak this year. I think Porthcawl is the spot. I'm buying, and I don't ever feel like abandoning my buying Charlie Hole post.
It's a slight sell for me. I just feel like we're at the point, she's pretty good at everything. I'm not sure what she's great at. I'm not sure what gets her kind of over the hump. Cody, if she were to win the AIG, that's fabulous. That kind of makes a career for her, I believe. So I'm not predicting that, and for that reason, I'm selling on Charlie. I think she probably ends the year just outside the top 10, but we'll get there. Let's finish with Seline Boutier. I'll start here. 31 years old. Last year, she hit the ball well. The putter took a big step back. I'm buying. I think perhaps this could be the beginning of a bit of a decline for Seline. Jordan, I'll go to you. What do you think about Seline Boutier?
Wait, you're buying, but you think it's the start
I'm
of
sorry,
a decline?
selling. I misspoke there.
Okay.
Selling. I'm selling Seline.
I was so
Good
excited to
catch.
feel like I was sticking my neck out once again. I'm also selling. I don't know. Last year, kind of for the most part, felt like it was a bit of a whiff, and you know, we rode off of her winning the Evian, winning the Scottish, winning Maybank, and she just kind of disappeared somewhat. And I know she played well at the Solheim, but I'm selling.
I think she was present at the Solheim. It's one of those things where God, you're just getting beat up by that fly, big guy. Oh my goodness.
Bless.
Didn't like that
It's
take.
like the fly from Richie Rich. You don't know. Somebody could be in there spying on you. But
Ugh.
you guys, what do you think Seline started last season at, rankings wise, Rolex rankings? Big 2023.
Yeah, was she 4th, 5th?
She was third.
3.
She was
Third?
the third best woman in the game. And she, at one point in time, was outside of the top 10. She got down to the 12th spot before she ended up picking up an Aramco series event, I believe in China. But now is in the top. That bounced her back into the top 10. Now she's on her way out of it again. It is the putting, which is surprisingly because she goes to the same coaches and studio that I go to, and everybody talks about how much Seline beats up the indoor putting studio. And she literally has like a groove worn into the indoor putting mat at the Altus Academy. And it just wasn't the year for her. And I don't think I can't really tell or see what's kind of going to turn that around. It's a very weird place to be. I just don't really know where Celine's game kind of fits in anymore. Especially we haven't got there yet, but when you start to look at the rookie class that's coming,
I
we're like,
know.
the power game is finally coming to the LPGA tour in mass. And you have the players like Seline, who is very accurate, and her strength used to be her putting. And now that's no longer there. I just don't know where those people fit in at.
Yeah, that's all well said. All right, well, there's your top 10 as it stands at the moment. Guys, let's go here. When we finish the season, all right, we're going to do our last podcast in December after the Tour Championship is complete. Who is going to be out of the top 10 and which names are going to fill the top 10? Jordan, I'll start with you.
Ooh, who's gonna be out of the top 10? Well, I could ride back on Celine there. Just pile on her. Sorry, Celine. I bought so much, guys, that it's just so hard to feel like many people are gonna fall out. Aside from maybe Lilia, because that this is a bit of a test of a year. So I feel good about those two. Sorry, those felt like very easy ones to pick off, but I feel like they will for sure fall out. In terms of, are we talking just falling out or also going inside?
Well, if you want to put the names in that will
Yeah,
replace them,
complete that
please feel
circle,
free.
JP.
Let's
Come
complete the
on.
circle. All right, let's do it. I Guys, my Rosang fandom has not is not worn off at all, even after and last year was not a bad year by any means, but I think last year was a very revealing year for Rosang in terms of her limits and what she was capable of in terms of balancing school, health. I think Rosang will insert herself in the top 10 this year. Maybe it feels a bit like I'm leaning back on that recency bias, but I feel really good about Jin Ko, honestly, and her health and where her game's at. I want to see her back in that top 10 too.
So
Cody?
I kind of lost count. Did you put 3 in but only take 2 out?
I
No, I
think that
thought I
was
picked 2. I went 2
Rose
2.
and
Okay.
Jin Young Ko officially.
Okay. There we
All
go.
right.
Thought we were gonna have a
I'm gonna
TC
swap.
situation here. There's a lot.
No.
There's a lot going on. So
16 people in the top 10. Yeah.
I think it's mathematically impossible for anybody in the top 4 to move out by the time that the season is done. Even like
That's
if
interesting.
somebody doesn't play an event, I don't know if it's possible for them to fall out just based off of the separation in points here. But I'll go out there. Lilia, I'm sorry. I apologize. You're out of here. Hannah, you're out. Ayaka, you're out. Celine, you're out. That gives me 4 spots.
Floor to play
Jin
with.
Young is absolutely going to flash. And I know I'm putting a lot of bias here at Hilton Head, but I think she's figured out the putter. She's in a much better spot mentally. She got that cute dog, which I know why you're out on her, Randy. That's why.
I know.
Awesome.
She kind of has a new leash on life here. So Jin Young, welcome to the squad. Rose, welcome to the top 10. Minji, welcome to the top 10. You and your new putter, please ride that thing all season long. It's going to happen. And my fourth pick and the biggest jump that you're going to see this year is from a young woman from Sweden, not Ingrid Lindblad, Lynn Grant. Lynn is finally going to arrive. She put a year into all these swing changes. Her performance last week at Hilton is truly was like phenomenal. And it's finished solo third, 15 under, and honestly, like didn't make a putt. Just ball striker, did everything possible, drove the piss out of it, hit her irons great, scrambled when she needed to, and just didn't make a ton of putts. I think it's finally happening. Like it's gonna be Lynn's year.
God dang, Cody, you and I are on a lot of the same blocks here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just quickly say I had Lilia dropping out of the top 10, Charlie and Seline dropping out. So those three out, and I'm going to backfill them with Lynn for all the reasons you said. Kind of a post-hype sleeper year for her. Minji, again, like you, like if the putter just improves a little bit, she's one of the best ball strikers out there. And then, God, this feels so just Homer, but I had Lauren Coughlin maybe sneaking in there to
Like
the back
that.
of the top.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel like the vibes are good. She's a great ball striker. Let's keep it rolling this year. So those were my 3 in, 3 out. All right. Well, last kind of Rolex ranking question I wanted to throw to the group. If you have a name, 2 names, however many you prepared of women that you think are poised to make a big leap in the Rolex rankings, and I'll leave the definition of big leap up to you, but maybe let's go around one at a time. Cody, will you start us off with a name here?
Well, I guess it doesn't matter how big. What is a big leap? Are we
Well,
talking
you
like
tell
10
us.
spots, 20 spots? Because I
You
think
tell us what you're expecting.
Lynn from 21 into the top 10, that's a pretty big leap.
That
And
is. Yeah, I think that counts.
I'd say this too. I'm very bullish on where Patty T is at. She's currently 25th, in a comfy spot, but really, just, picks off wins, but didn't really show up at the other events. I think she's going to finally round out and have like a really solid season. I hate to like throw any other name that I don't quite know where they're gonna pick up or be at, but I think the person who is barely inside the top 50 in the world right now, 48th, somebody that I had pegged as my rookie to watch last year, Gabby Ruffles. And I think Gabby is just going to continue to get a better understanding of these golf courses. The familiarization is going to carry her to higher finishes, and she's just going to break through and start picking up dubs. I think that's kind of where I'm at with Gabby. That's as far out as my net can currently go, though, until we get to the rookies.
Jordan, do you have anything?
Okay, this does not feel consistent with who I predicted to jump into the top 10, but I only had 2 spots, so I had to be pretty selective. We're forgetting I don't want to jump into the rookie talk too early, but Miyu Yamashita, guys, I
For sure.
think she's going to make a leap. It feels like in some senses like she's a bit of a forgotten name, and maybe that's because she had to go through Q series, but like runner up in a major, she's won 13 times professionally. Like, guys,
I
like,
want to get ahead of this too. And you're right. She's on my list, and I pulled her out to put her in the rookie category. She's currently 13th in the world.
I know, and that's where I'm like, I don't know how much
So
better.
where are we
she can
leaping
really
her
get.
to? Top 5?
Yeah. But we didn't have her going in the top 10.
Right.
I didn't, and I said it didn't feel consistent with my selections. So
You're right,
me.
though.
Forgive me.
I think maybe not rankings leap, but definitely like exposure, understanding, and familiarity with LPGA fans across the world. Yeah, she's definitely it. She's so damn good. Rookie of the year. by a long shot. And
Thank you.
the reason why I say that is because it's a very good rookie class. I just don't know, like, you don't know where Ingrid's gonna be at. Everything's just kind of like out there. I mean, you have the twins. The twins can make a splash too. Jenny Bay's coming through. I just the girl from Texas A&M. I can't even remember who won nationals last year.
Adela Cernosik.
Yeah, Adela. But I think like Miu is such a generational worldwide player that is so fit or ready for this hectic LPGA schedule. Like it's impossible to look past her. Sorry for jumping categories, Big, but
No.
I had to get in on with Jordan. We're side by side, saddle up.
We're totally good. Well, let me give you my big jumps, and I'll define. I was looking way down the Rolex ranking, so I have actually three women, one just inside the top 100, and the other two well above the 100th mark. And the first one is the current 151st ranked player in the world is Alim Kim. I could see her potentially winning an LPGA event this year, getting a nice jump, up into that 60, 70 in the world category. I think she's somebody to keep an eye on. The other one, Bianca, this is a favorite of mine. Bianca Pagdananen is 119th in the world. I feel like she's getting her feet underneath her as a solid LPGA Tour player. Her driver is spectacular. If you ever are out at an event and want somebody to follow, go watch her hit the ball. She's really good. I could see her, again, kind of up into that 70, 80 range. I think is a really nice improvement for her. But the one I'm really hoping for, guys, is the 98th player in the world, Helen Bream, the 19-year-old from Germany. I want her to skyrocket. I want her to be a top 40 player. I want her to have a monster LET season. She is somebody that quite, I'm not saying she will, but she has the potential to be a true game changer in women's golf. And if she is going to be, then we're going to start to see it this year, I think. So that's the last one I wanted to highlight.
You're spot on there. The only thing is that she's at such a disadvantage only playing the LET and currently only playing the LET and the amount of points, Rolex points that are actually available for her. Now, I agree. Like she's top 20, top 15, probably at some point in time, top 10 player in the world. I just don't know. Like, are we 1 year away from that? Are we 3 years away from that? Like, she's so young still. Like, but I
will
agree.
we ever get there? Because that's a concern.
Yep, for sure.
Well, you mentioned the rookies. You guys had Miyu Yamashita. Any other Jordan? Any other rookies? Ingrid Lindblad. We've talked about. Give us another name or two that people need to keep an eye on this year.
Well, I also had Ingrid down. I'm not gonna, I still have a lot of Ingrid stock, especially watching her in college and how she played on the Epson Tour this season and how she's played in majors in the past. I think, again, going back to Cody's point about Miyu and kind of the depth of events that she's played and how, international her game has been. I think Ingrid has some of that too, being from Sweden, playing a lot of events in Europe. I think the one concern I would say I'd have about Ingrid is just, showing up in really, really big moments. I mean, there's been those ANWA misses, there's been those misses at NCAAs. And so, even at the women's amateur. And, that's my only real concern with Ingrid, but, you know, I don't know quite where to put her ceiling as a professional player. I mean, she had one of the best collegiate careers of all time, but, I still think she is a rookie to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if she picked one off this season. And there was a Jenny Bay mentioned too. I've got a good amount of Jenny Bay stock. I still feel very attached to that finish at NWA a few years ago, where she nearly beat Rose Zhang. I still think that's significant. And then she went on to the Epson Tour, won twice the following year, stayed on the Epson Tour, and won once last fall, and has finally got her card. So I'm very interested to see how she plays on the LPGA this season.
Anything to add there, Cody?
No, she hit the nail on the head. We're swimming in the same pond here. The one thing I'd say for Ingrid is I think a year on Epson was very, very beneficial to her. Not only winning, but traveling and learning and everything. She has one of the coolest caddies in the women's professional game, Scotty on the bag, who is a huge fan of ours, big supporter of ours. Like want them and her, like she is going to be a top 10 player in the world. We just don't know when that's going to be because she has had some big moments. I mean, I still remember at Pine Needles, like her, being first round leader and like, wow, Ingrid's here. Like, and all the doubt from Anwan college experiences and everything. And like, she is phenomenal. And then all of a sudden you're just like, wait a second, this is a completely different player. Like where did the ball striking go? Where did the scrambling go? Where did the putting go? It just kind of all like, kind of got flushed away. She's going to be a really good professional. I think it's just going to be, it's just going to take a little bit of time, which it does for everyone. I mentioned the twins, the Japanese twins. I think it's Aki and Chisato or something like that.
Chisato. Yeah.
Chisato. UI, I think both of them, multiple winners on the JLPGA, kind of in the same pedigree coming over as Miyu, just not as prolific as winners. But what a better support system to have, traveling with your best friend and your sister and trying to figure out how do you get around this world. So I think it's going to be a very powerful year for rookies. Something that we really haven't seen kind of at least the last couple of years where you have this, kind of them in masses contending and putting themselves out there instead of just kind of like the one or two superstars who kind of rise to the top.
Yep. Jordan, I want to ask you, the LPGA announced what they're calling the Elite Amateur Pathway. Can you kind of synthesize what it is and also what you might like or not like about it?
Yeah. So the leap, as it's called, is basically sort of a direct. I don't know if I would call it a response, but certainly mirrors the PGA Tour U. But it operates a little more like PGA Tour U accelerated, but with one catch. This is to all amateurs are included within this. It's not just collegiate players. So
Okay.
all amateurs are kind of not fighting, but like they're competing basically within the scope. So to kind of frame how difficult this is to achieve, you've got to achieve 20 points to get exempt status into the LPGA for the following season. Only 3 players, I guess, documented would have achieved this, and those players were all world number 1 amateurs, which I'm sure you guys could probably name. Rose, Lydia, and Leona would have all qualified under this system, which feels feels a little annoying in the context that Rose could have done it because she had such an incredible amateur career and that just should have been rewarded immediately. And like, but yes, she won her very first event as a professional and did it anyway. And that's even more reason why she should have just been exempted to the LPGA Tour. But anyway, neither here nor there. The system's finally here. I also feel like I have a bit of that grievance because I asked Molly about it a few years ago at CME in like 2022, and she kind of was just like, yeah, it should happen, but whether it's, we don't know when it's going to happen. And I was like, cool, but glad it's here. Glad it's finally gotten done. So the leap right now, as it stands, it awards different awards from the collegiate season, different top end amateur events, WAGR rankings. So if you're ranked number 1, number 2, number 3 in the top 5, basically you'll get awarded points. If you win the Yannicka Award, you'll get points. If you win things like ANWA, the women's amateur, the women's Asia Pacific amateur events of that pedigree, you will be awarded. So right now, the names that are leading, I'll read a few of them off. Lottie Woad leads with 16 points, so she just needs 4 more to be fully exempt. And behind her is that Anna Davis at 8. Rachel Heck is on this list, which I found pretty interesting. She's at 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jasmine Koo, the freshman at USC, is 6. And then there's a few ties for 5 points. Hannah Darling, Rianne Maliksi, which is interesting because Rianne Maliksi is still so young and has so much of an amateur career ahead of her. Catherine Park from USC is at 5 also, and Mirabel Ting from FSU is at 5. So yeah, that's kind of the roundup of who's at the top and how they kind of got there. There's a couple things about it that I'm just interested to see if either they develop if it develops in a certain way or if it how it might change. I don't know that it really encourages that much longevity in college golf careers. The only progress you're really awarded on in Weiger is just top 5. Like PGA Tour U itself is awarding that class of seniors based on the past 2 years of their collegiate play and how they're doing in Weiger. That stuff doesn't really count unless you're getting up into the top 5 of Weiger in this system or you're winning awards. So that right there is interesting to me. I'm curious to see like how much that changes. Um and I guess I don't know. I still feel like and I could see some pushback from this because this is always a debate. The amateur scene in the KLPGA and the JLPGA is just phenomenal. And I know a lot of the amateurs make their way through Wagger because they're playing so many professionally classified events and they build up a lot of credibility through that. I don't know. It just feels like we're kind of resigning ourselves to like a very Western based system and schedule when so much of women's golf exists in Asia. And there should be a way to award that aside from, hey, you're ranked really high in the Rolex. Well, here, why don't you get into the women's open? And so I don't know. That's one thing I hope to see addressed. And again, yeah, they're giving you credit if you win the women's Asia Amateur Pacific, but I'm glad to see that this system exists, and I think it was a long time coming, truly. But I'm curious to see what additional metrics of success will be included and how far it'll expand.
Yeah, well put. I'm still kind of trying to process, but it's a good point about it being kind of Western dominated and doesn't really speak to, what's happening with the KLPGA, the JLPGA, et cetera, et cetera.
It's also interesting that the highest point allocation is not necessarily based off of finish, but it's based off of cumulative year. So like there's only one 4-point available, correct? And that's for the winner of the McCormick Medal.
Yep.
Yes.
Which is weird that is placed above, like it's placed above being number 1 on Wager. It's placed below winning any of the biggest women's events in amateur golf. It's placed above making the cut or top 25 at an LPGA major. Like I think there's some work that could go in here to make this more, I don't know, performance based instead of being a subjective, JP, kind of the route that you're going on. As well as expanding just this list of like cuts made at LPGA official tournaments, or that's not even one of them. So 1 point for top 40 at a non-major LPGA official tournament. Like, why is that not expanded to LET, to JLPGA, to KLPGA, to something?
Yeah.
Because you're right. If you want to have this system work to bring the best players in the game up when you think that they're performing at their highest level, instead of just waiting for, I guess, 3 people in a generation to come, like there needs to be some changes to it. But it's better than not having it at all, right?
It is. And I think too it also brings in the debate of what is the pedigree and what is the status of certain top end amateur events, because as you were saying, within the point allocation you can get the same amount of points for winning Anwa as you do the European ladies, and I just don't see that as being equitable at all.
I just looked at it, I was like, oh, when you're going through the list, and I was like, oh, well, what are we currently at? And I scrolled down, I'm like, wait, where's Astercat? Like, why is she not in any of this. And then I was like, oh, well, like some of these events that she's playing in, she's in either the amateur division or the celebrity division or something like that, where I'm like, she's got to figure that out for herself. Like, I think she's kind of the next super young player that kind of is of that level. But also know that it's going to, turn professional and play as it is. So she doesn't care about it.
Yeah, I guess my biggest critique would be if retroactively fitting this leap system onto what's happened. If the only 3 players are Lydia Co, Rose Zhang, and Leona Maguire, I guess I would say, why do we have such a high point threshold, right? I would argue it's maybe more important to get more very good AMs up into the LPGA, because they're not a finished product as an AM, and you don't know who has the potential to take off and, be a top 10, top 5 player in the world. If it's just going to recognize your Lydia Co and your Rose Zhang and honestly Leona Maguire, like it's kind of telling us what we already know, instead of perhaps opening doors to people that otherwise, might take several years through Epson Tour or Q Series, or maybe they remain in Japan for an extra couple of years. As I'm saying that, though, maybe the argument is, well, if you're not good enough to get through Q Series, or if you're not good enough to get through an Epson season, how good are you? It's a tricky balance, but
Well
for a
said.
system that in the last, decade plus would only identify 3 women to kind of promote it, it seems like we're setting the threshold too high, in my opinion. All right, well, let's get to our final block. We've talked about a few predictions, but let's officially put them on the record here. I have Tron's predictions also. He wanted to make sure I get those read into the record. So let's start with the 5 majors. We don't have to spend a ton of time here. Give me any reasoning or no reasoning at all. But let's start with the Chevron. TC has Nelly Korda winning the Chevron. Can't argue with that pick. I have Gino Titicum, and I only look at the Chevron. The last 2 years it's been at the Woodlands. Lilia Vu won 2 years ago, portended a big season from her. Nelly last year won, portended a big season from her. So I wanted to put Gino in here because obviously I'm kind of calling on a big season for her. Cody, who do you have winning the Chevron?
Nelly Korda. She did not play good golf there last year. Ended up winning by 2 over Maya at 13 under, and honestly, like, just kind of was a blah tournament for her. It's very, very weird. But you talk about players and course matches. Like, Nelly Korda is going to continue to eat that place up.
Yeah. JP, who do you have at the Chevron?
Put some respect on Elsie's name, you guys. Come on.
Home game.
For sure. For sure. Very good finish for LC. She ended up T3rd last year at 10 under par, tied with Brooke. But I do know, as much as I would love LC to win that event, number one, it's a fake major, so I don't know if we would actually respect that or not. Of course, joking
I think
aside.
we'd have to. Yeah.
But it's also a really big event. Like, we talk about the hometown thing. Last year I went to like a fajita dinner that her mom and dad put together for us and everything. And there's, different caddies and players and everybody showing up. It's just it's a big week for Team LC. I don't know if she'll be able to see through all of that and focus on it when you have, somebody like Nelly who's just like, yeah, I'm gonna be a fucking racehorse on this thing. Keep up.
Well, speaking of LC, let's go to the U.S. Women's Open. TC saying, I hope the wind blows. He has LC winning the U.S. Women's Open at Erin Hills. I will say that I jokingly made a comment that I'm just going to set a daily or an annual reminder. I have Yuka Sasso winning the U.S. Women's Open, and I think I'll just pick her every year for the next decade. Cody, who do you have at the U.S. Women's Open?
This is where I said it when we were going down the top 10 list. This is where I think she comes out to shine. Gino Titicum, U.S. Women's Open champion at Erin Hills.
JP?
Cody's going to hate this one. Ayaka Furue.
All right, let's move on to the KPMG PGA at Frisco, Fields Ranch. JP, who do you have?
Ooh, I'm gonna throw down Nelly for this one.
Never a bad guess. Cody?
Yep, it definitely Nelly's length around there could definitely be beneficial. It of course it all comes down to setup, but there is Fields Ranch East has a lot of points where you can't hit your ball as far as you want. Like, yeah, par fives, there's a couple par fours you can really eat up, but everybody else is kind of choked in there. And I say, I mentioned this player and it's how hard it would be to follow up that incredible year that she had last year. She's had this tournament on her list for a very, very long time, and that is Lydia Co. And I think she's going to win in North Texas.
I like that.
I like that too. TC and I both have Minjee Lee winning that major. The Evian, TC has said, quote, not a major, refuses to give a prediction. I will say I have that Ling Grant. If this is going to be part of a breakout year for Ling Grant, I have her winning the Evian. Cody, who do you have?
That sounds great. Or LC. I thought LC was going to pull it off
true.
last year.
JP?
I'm going to throw Minjee Lee down on that one. She's going to get another one.
Like that. All right. Brings us to the last major, the Women's Open. TC has Ayaka Furuwe. I have Nelly Korda. Cody, who do you have?
Well, I rolled it out there already for my girl Charlie Hall.
Right.
We both did.
I'll roll with that unless I get a 1B, vote here. But I don't think that's going to happen. We'll go with Charlie.
JP, also Charlie.
Yeah, we both did. I'm staying there. Have not migrated whatsoever. All
right. How about player of the year? Jordan, let's start with you.
Guys, I left this one blank. I was too scared to put a stamp on a player of the year, which it feels like it should be so obvious.
No, I'm
know.
Sorry. We don't stand for that.
Oh,
stick your neck out. Who's
cornered?
It gonna be?
I'm getting cornered. It's gonna be the weakest pick possible. I'm just gonna go with Nelly.
It's not the weakest. I think that's the most common sense. Of course, it's going to be Nelly Korda. Come on.
Rather in the sense of audacity. I lack the audacity to stick my neck out for that one.
Cody, you're officially Nelly?
Yeah, I mean, come on. I earlier when we're talking about Nelly and what I expect from her this year, I talked about all these extra majors, and then I didn't even pick her for another one outside of Chevron. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but you can only pick one name.
There's only so many. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be, give me Nelly, of course, player of the year.
TC has Lydia Co, who he does note he has her winning the player of the year without winning a single major, which is interesting. I'm going to come back to Gino. Big year for Gino. I'm all in on Gino, all the stock. Who tour championship winner? Let's go here. I actually have Nelly winning this tournament, the tour championship. Cody, who do you have?
It's such a crapshoot. I mean, who you want me? You want me to say Nelly? You want me to say Amy Yang? Like it.
I wanted you to get weird.
It's one of those weird things. I truly, who knows whatever happens at that place.
Jordan, I'm sure you might not have a name here.
I do have a name, actually.
You do? I apologize. Who?
Guys, I'm going back and forth because on one hand, I think Gino could run it back again, but I also want to throw it down for Angel Yin. I know she loves that course, and
love that.
I know she felt a little slighted by not winning last year, so wouldn't be surprised if she clipped one there.
I love that. Cody, give us a name of somebody who's going to be a first-time LPGA winner.
Any of the rookies.
Miyu, Yamashita.
Sure. Yeah, that's the safest bet.
Jordan,
Miyu, Natasha Un feels like a good pick too.
Gabby Ruffles.
Gabby's another good one.
Yeah.
I had Austin Kim. I shouted her out earlier. The other one I had on my list, I think is being overlooked because of Miyu Yamashita, but Ryo Takada is also a Japanese rookie.
Yep.
I believe ranked 15th in the world. Could certainly see her winning this year. So wanted to make sure to give her a little love. I think this could be an interesting one. Rookie of the year, Jordan. Who's your official pick to win Rookie of the Year?
Cody and I, again, were so in sync. However many minutes ago, Miyu Yamashita. Come on.
I second that.
That's my official pick. TC is going different. He's going Ingrid.
Ooh. That's surprising.
And now, guys. Yeah. All right. And now the final prediction, kind of I wouldn't say the elephant in the room, but certainly something that's going to have a strong bearing on the LPGA season. Do we want to have an official prediction on who the commissioner will be? And I'll say, Cody, you tell me if you've heard anything different. I don't have any inside scoop on any of this. I feel like the search process thus far has been pretty quiet, at least in terms of anything that's gotten to me. I'll throw out a prediction. I think it makes a lot of sense. I thought this from the minute the Molly news dropped. I feel like Alex Baldwin, who's currently the commissioner of the Corn Ferry Tour, I think she makes all the sense in the world. So that would be my prediction.
That would make a ton of sense, but I don't know where they're at all. I know they've just assembled the ground council to try the next search, so who knows what's going to happen. There's been nothing leaked at all. And I did mention, I think, a couple funny things. Number one, TC's recommendation that Jay Monahan would be perfect for the job also still stands. Very, very good. And a quick mea culpa on my part, because I think the last time we talked about this, I was like, oh yeah, I can't remember her name, but she's the commissioner of the Ladies European Tour. And our friend Sophie Walker was like, well, why did you leave my name out of it? She would be an amazing commissioner. She understands the game from a player's perspective, understands it from the business side of it. Yeah, hell yeah, throw her name in there. I hope she gets called out by the Grand Council for interviews, but who knows where they're going to go.
Jordan, any guesses? No strong guesses. I like the Alex Baldwin pick a lot. I guys, how many people are responsible for making a decision about this hire? Because there's a firm looking, there's a group of players looking. It feels like we've got a lot of voices here in making the decision, which is good. But I'm also like, how much is this being complicated? We kind of need a commissioner sooner than later.
Yeah, I know. I thought, God, it'd be great to have an announcement prior to the Founders Cup, a big celebration of the LPGA history. Alexandra Armas was the LET commissioner or the CEO that we couldn't remember there. TC, for his prediction, said he had no idea. He threw out the name, is it John Padani from the USGA, the COO? Yeah. He was like, I don't know, maybe somebody from kind of the Juan tree to come back for a few years, right the ship and hand it off. So don't know. I honestly don't know the timing of a new announcement, but we'll certainly wait and see. And I'm very curious, as I know you guys are, to see who will be named the next LPGA commissioner. With that, guys, I feel like we've set the stage for what should be a fun 2025 season. If there's anything else you guys need to add, or if not, we'll call it a show and enjoy the Founders Cup this weekend. Cody, anything on the way out?
No, just pumped to get the season actually going here. I know we got Founders this week, and then we got a week off, and then we move into that front leg of the Asian swing before we kind of settle back in the end of March, early April. But there's a lot going on in the world of women's professional golf, a lot of new faces, but we got the same familiar faces that I hope everybody gets used to seeing at the top end of the game. And I think that is part of making this whole thing grow. So we'll see where we're at on other growth initiatives this year. We'll see where NBC Golf Channel is at on their promoting of the golf telecasts that they hold the rights to.
Will anything look different this year? Will a single thing look different?
Who knows? But hey, well, I'm going in. I'm giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I hope that I hope they prove us wrong, because I know the sport really needs it.
Hear, hear. Jordan, thank you for joining. Guys, look forward to a great year internally with NLU. And to everybody listening, following along, thank you. Thank you to Titleist. Now it's time to go. Cheers. Crack on.
Cheers,
Cheers.
everybody.